Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Tower Defense Tutorial. In today's episode, we will learn how to implement the attack logic of the enemy towards the towers. Let's go! As always, before I start implementing the logic, I would like to explain the whole process. Let's bring one of our towers. Let's go back here. Let's put the tower in here. And let's bring the enemy in here. In order to make the enemy attack the tower, we need a means of interaction. And one of the ways of doing this is by using the trigger system or the collision system in Unity. And the collision system is a physics-based interaction. So that means in order to collide or trigger two items, we need the essential component, which is a collider. As you can see, our enemy already has a collider, whereas our tower doesn't have a collider. So we will add a collider to the tower so that the enemy will know when it collides with it, and afterwards we will transit the state of the enemy from moving into attacking, where it will do an interval of attacks in, let's say, 2-3 seconds, and in each attack it will inflict damage to the tower, and then when the tower is dead, we will return back a value to the enemy saying that, well, the tower is died and you can stop attacking. And then and only then the enemy will transit from attacking into moving again. So this will be the whole process. Let's start. First of all, what I did is I created a new scene. It's a new 2D scene, and I'm gonna bring in back the enemy here and the tower, and this will be used just test, because I don't want to play the whole game to test it. I can just put it in here where the enemy will move in and it will attack the tower. As I said before, the first thing we have to do is add a trigger to the tower. So instead of adding it in here, we will do it in the prefab itself, so we don't lose this process, because if we add it here, we have to manually click apply. So what we'll do is we will select one of the towers in here and double click it, and we'll enter the prefab view. Let's add collider or box collider, and let's use 2D of course, and make sure it's trigger. I want to reduce the size of it because it's a bit too huge, so let's put it 0.6 maybe. Yeah, that seems fine. One way of letting the enemy know the tower is by differentiating it. And I can keep it as it is, but let's say in your game you have more stuff, like you have objects flying, you have obstacles, you have, coins. So I want to make sure that the enemy knows that this is a tower. We can do it by using tags. All you have to do is select the prefab, click tag, and select, I've already created a tag called tower. You can do it by creating a tag and adding it in here. So you can go ahead, click tower, and that's it. It will link to this game object that has the collider. Let's make the same thing to the other towers. You can copy this value here by right-clicking and selecting copy element. Go back to tower 2, right-click anywhere, click paste component as new, and it will paste back the value that you took. So double-click and you see it has a value here, and make sure that the tower is set. Otherwise, you can do it by drag and drop all of them and do it again. So I'll resume on the third tower. Here we go. We get this trigger and tower. So now what we've done is, if you look here, the tower has a trigger. We finished the tower part partially, and now we'll start doing the enemy part. So we have the enemy 1 and enemy 2. That's all the enemies that we have. So I'm going to start with the enemy 1. We see that we have a box collider, which is amazing, and we can use it as a way of detection. But what we need to do is we need to add something called rigid body. And why that is, any moving object in the scene that wants to interact physically, using physics, we need that rigid body because it does enable the collider to interact with others. You don't have to put it on the other one, on the tower. You put it in here only. I usually put it on the items that actually move. So let's go ahead and make a rigid body. After we do it, we need to change the body type to pneumatic, because I don't want it to affect gravity and fall down. So this will make sure that it does have the physics effect, but doesn't actually affect the gravity. That's the only thing that we have to do in here. And let's apply it again to the second enemy, rigid and pneumatic. That's good. Let's go back. I think we can start doing the script logic. Let's open the enemy script, double click, and here we go. So what are the elements that we need? We need to track the animator because we need to change the actual way of it looking. The second thing is we need a value to say how long do you want to do the next attack. So let's start adding this stuff by adding public animator. We call it animator, and public float, I would say attack delay or interval. Here we go. And the last thing I want to add is something called coroutine. I will explain what it does later. I will call it attack order. That's good. Looking at the logic, we see that we're always calling the move, which is fine right now, but now we need to change it to detect, like, are we attacking or no? And one way to do this is, let's create an if statement here, if, and we'll say tower detected. Let's make it this way: if tower is not detected, you do the move. Otherwise, we will do our attack logic separately outside. And one way of knowing if we have the tower is we can either store it in a value or put a boolean. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put something called tower, call it detected tower. By default, it's gonna be null. So let's put it in here. If we put it like this, it means if there's a tower. So we're gonna make sure that there is no value. So we can either go equals null, or you can just go ahead with an exclamation mark before. This will mean that it is the opposite of true, which is null or false. Because in this sense, if there is no tower detected, move. That's good. Now we want to start implementing the interaction part. And the first thing we have to do is create a method called onTriggerEnterDuty. This method is, as I said before, it's a combination of the rigid body enabling the collider to interact with others. What happens here is, as soon as we trigger with anything else that has a collider, we will have this fired. And this fires only the first time. What that means, as soon as the two colliders touch in, it will happen. There are other stuff like on trigger exit or trigger stay. On exit is as soon as the colliders stop triggering, and stay is as always as the colliders are inside each other. But we don't need these two, we'll use only on trigger enter. And we want to make sure that we are triggering the towers. We can do this by checking the tag. So if collision, this is the input that we have from the triggering, that tag equals tower, if it's actually a tower, we need to store that tower. What we can do is we can use this to access the whole item. We have the detected tower as null right now, so as soon as we trigger with a tower, we go ahead and save that value. Detected tower equals collision, and this is the collider object. We need to access the tower script, so we go ahead, get component tower. So as soon as we trigger with a tower, we store that tower value in our detect tower. And I want to do something here just to make sure that whenever we have a tower detected, I want to stop all the triggering. And you can do this by saying if detected tower is true, which is like this, we just return. What this means is as soon as we detect one tower, we stopped registering any other triggers, like we stopped doing any logic, which is going to be helpful if we want to avoid any other stuff. So we did a trigger, we saved the tower value. The next thing we have to do is do the actual attack logic. Let's create a method, call it attack. And inside here, we will access the animator and let it play the attack animation which I've created in previous episodes. And next thing we do, we want to make sure that wait x, or actually not x, wait, this one, attack interval, and then attack again. And one of the ways that we can do to wait x amount of seconds is by using coroutines. And coroutines are basically a way of handling waitable methods in Unity. In order to do this, we have to convert this method into something called IEnumerator. If you don't see this one or you get an error, that means because you have to use the system.collections. So as soon as we make it IEnumerator, you see we'll have an error. It says that not all code paths return a value, because every IEnumerator, it requires a return value. And we can do this by calling yield return new, and then we have to call wait 4 seconds. And we have to use this one value here, and this will make sure that as soon as we call attack, the next logic will be wait x amount of seconds, which is going to be 2, 3, 4, depends how you want to put it. Right after this, we want to recall this method, a coroutine method or an IEnumerator. You don't just simply say attack like this, because it's not going to call. You have to put something specific called start coroutine, and then inside you will put attack like this. This will make sure that it will start the coroutine of attack. Alright, so this will make sure that we attack, wait, and attack again. You have to call it inside the trigger here. And now I'm going to start talking about what I added in here. So coroutines are basically a component or an object that actually can be called, halted, or anything else. And it's stored inside what is called here coroutine. As soon as we call the method or the coroutine here, you will see that this value returns something called coroutine of tag mono behavior. So we can store this one, attack order, inside the coroutine. And why we're doing this is, let's say your enemy attacks the tower, and whenever the attack is done, I get a response from the tower that says, alright, the tower is dead, stop attacking. Then what we can do, we can actually hold this attack order, which is this one, and resume the movement. But if we don't hold it, this will keep called indefinitely. We have set up the tower, we've called the method here, and then we are looping through it. Again, don't forget to put it inside here as well, attack order, because if you don't, you will start getting this value not being stopped at all. That being said, we have the attack, and I think we can start testing it. Attack order, it's good. Let's just make sure that everything's fine. Okay, we can start testing small stuff for now and add up if we have any problems. We have the enemy with the rigid body, collider, animator, and we need to reference the animator that we created. Let's put the attack as, let's say, 2 seconds, right? And let's go to the tower. Just make sure everything's fine. I think everything's good. The tower is type of tower, and the enemy is type of enemy. Let's play. Hopefully, if everything's fine, as soon as the enemy touches the tower, yep, here we go. It starts attacking. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to actually cause damage to the tower. And we already have the tower script, and its type of tower. We already have the lose health. So we want to call this method from the enemy. And one way to do this is, we would say that, well, I can call it in here. But it wouldn't make sense because every enemy has a different attack animation. And let's say you're swinging a sword. You don't want to cause damage at the start of the animation. You want to cause damage at the second where you actually hit the enemy in a visual sense. Some of them, the attack animation comes at the start, if it's like a bullet. Some of them, it comes late, if it's a whip or a sword. So we can do this by calling events from the animation. So let's open the enemy, go into animation, and in here, we'll have the animation of attacking. If it's not selected, make sure to select it from here. And as you look at the right side, the enemy starts attacking. So I want to make sure that at a certain second, the attack in logic gets inflected. I think it's right about here. As soon as you reach the actual frame, click on Add Event. When you add the event, it will open up a function value in here where you can select the method that you wanna call at this frame. But right now we don't have a method, so let's create one. If you go back here, let's make sure that it's public, otherwise it's not going to be visible. Void inflict damage, and this will make sure that we actually inflict damage to the tower. We can do it by accessing the detected tower script, detected tower dot lose health, and the amount of health that we want to lose is similar to attack power. This depends on the tower's strength. Let's say we did this, right? We have no way of knowing if the tower is dead. And if the tower is dead and we don't get a response, we will keep attacking over and over and over. One way of doing this is if we can let the enemy know from the tower that yes, the enemy reached 0 health, it's dead. And to do this, we can use this method, lose health. How to use it is we can return a value here. And the best way is to have a Boolean value. And as soon as we add this, it's going to tell us, please add return values. So, whenever the health is less or equal to 0, the enemy dies. And then what we can do here, we can write return true, which means the tower has died. Otherwise, we return false. Whenever reach return in a method, it will exit the whole method. So you don't have to worry about this getting called twice. So as soon as it comes inside, it will call die, and it will return and exit. But if it doesn't go inside, it will skip it, go to return false. Let's save, go back here. Now this method has a value. Let's call it tower died. So we can save it here, and then, and only then, if we go ahead and call tower died, we can stop the whole attack logic. What we'll do is, first of all, we'll clear the tower, detect tower, make it null, and then we have to stop the looping coroutine. You can do it by accessing the value that we used it, which is attack order. Simply just call stop coroutine and pass in the attack order, which is the actual coroutine object. This will make sure that we reset the detected tower object and stop the looping. There's another way you can do it, is by calling stop all coroutines. It will stop all the coroutines inside this class. But it's not good if you have other coroutines running, you will stop the other ones as well. So that's been said, we have set this up. Let's go back, click on the enemy, make sure we call that inflict by clicking this small tick, opening up, inflict damage, and let's start playing. I think right now it's going to take a bit longer because the enemy attack is 1 and the tower is a bit too much. You see on the right side the health is decreasing 1 value at a time, which is very good. So as soon as it reaches 0, the tower will die and the enemy will resume. That's good. But we forgot to actually change the animation, which is what we're going to do right now. So whenever the attack happens, we call the animator. But whenever the move is happening, we're not calling anything. So let's make sure we call the move animation. Plus, I would like to add something in here. The animators has some sort of a way of, if you're playing an animation, let's say it's 3 seconds long, and you want to play it again, if you call animator play, it will not replay it because it doesn't reset currently played animations. So one way of doing this is hard coded, or like telling it start playing from the start. So what you can do is like comma 0, comma 0. And if you notice, this takes the layer value and the normalized time. So this says play the attack animation in the layer 0, which is the default layer, at the frame 0, which is the start of the animation. This is just to make sure that it actually plays the animation, in case you had a really long attack animation. Let's go back. Let's make sure that the enemy has a stronger attack value, so we don't have to wait a lot. Here we go. First hit, second hit. That's good. And you can see here it says tower is dead and the enemy resumes moving. So we've integrated everything in this first enemy. Let's make sure that we have it on the second enemy. Here we go, we open this one, put the animator here, and let's make sure this attack value is longer. Well, as enemy 1, let's make sure that he has a slightly slower attack interval, so it attacks faster but weaker. Alright, I think that's good. Let's go back to our game scene. Let's not save anything. Let's test it out, see if it works. The cool thing is we have a logic playing, so we have enemies that are defense and others which are attack. Whoa, we have an error here. Oh, that's very correct. So we forgot to implement the event in the second animation. So we applied that one in the first one, but here we have to also look at this lock attack. Go back here. Let's use it in here. Inflict damage. Yep. That's good. Go to enemy. Make sure that this is set up. That's good. Let's make sure if we have nothing here extra. Good, good. Let's start. Let's put the first tower. Yeah, we're having some errors here. Oh. Are we missing something? Yes, I have forgot to link the animator. So that's one of the issues that I said. You should not work inside the scene, you have to work in the prefab itself. Let's play. Let's put the coin tower, so we have pink. Let's make sure that we have this guy here. And let's put this guy here. This guy will make sure that we kill this enemy. So we go, boop, boop. So this guy's gonna kill him. Let's see if actually he succeeds. Well, he did. See that? So right now we have a running logic of some semi-playable game. So we have animal currency. So that's amazing. I hope you liked it. You can add more stuff to it. You can add particles of some sort. You can add, a way of the tower getting, get affected like or something. But this is the initial setup, and it works perfectly. And that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like and subscribe, and also join our Discord channel where you can get help or help others as well. If you got any more questions, you can post comments in there or down below. And as always, good luck, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.